So Fraser, good to get a catch up with you. There's been a few developments over the summer as we approach the new season of Scottish football. Could you let us in on some of that?
Yeah, well, as always, football changes dramatically, and the summertime for us is about planning for the new season. But there's been plenty going on, sort of domestically and internationally. Internationally, I have been voted on to the global board of FIFPro, the World Players Union, a really big organisation. So I'm really honoured by that as well. And within PFA Scotland, there's been new staff come in. We've got new strategy in terms of well-being and communications and various other aspects, as well as beefing up our legal support to players as well. So it's been a really good summer so far.
And fantastic news about your introduction to the FIFPro board. Can you let us in on maybe what influence that might have for PFA Scotland as a trade union and for our members?
Yeah, I think FIFPro is perhaps not so widely known, or not too much is known about it in Scotland, but it's a really big organisation. I've been involved for 25 years since I was a player, and I've seen it grow from 20 members to about 70 members now across the world. So all the big unions, but across the globe completely now, that there's unions in almost every league where there's professional football. And we've got a big staff as well, and our role is to deal and to represent players internationally, because many of the international regulations at FIFA or UEFA level, they filter down to affect players in Scottish football. We have a transfer system, we have agent regulations. In women's football, we now have maternity regulations. All of these have been negotiated by FIFPro. So my role on the board will be to set that strategy and to also support the really good staff we have at FIFPro who do all the hard work on a day-to-day basis.
And talking about FIFPro, obviously Tuesday brought quite an important announcement both from FIFPro and the European leagues. This is a subject which has been a bit of a hot topic for us for a while. Can you explain PFA Scotland's stance on it?
Yeah, wider from a FIFPro position to start off with, it's a really important topic in football at the moment, because players are just being asked to play so many games. And I think that the trigger point for this legal action was the Club World Cup that was put in place by FIFA. But I think across all the federations across the world now, even clubs playing pre-season friendlies and tours, the expanded competitions across the globe, I think that is going to cause us real problems, because players just are not getting a break. When you think of every summertime now, players are being asked to play well into June and July, and then the season starts almost immediately. So amongst the top players, of course, that's been the focus for the top players. It's a really hot topic, and with European leagues, who are our partners in terms of a European dynamic, then we decided to take this legal action. It's against FIFA, but I think it's against the game in general to say you can't just keep adding game after game on top of the player workload, because it is causing problems for them with their physical and their mental health. They're not getting a proper break, the guys at the top level.
And we put our own statement out on the back of Tuesday's news, obviously explaining how it's impacting our game in Scotland, but more primarily the topic around international football and the sort of trickle-down effect that's had, as you mentioned. How do you see that unfolding in terms of players in Scotland? You've mentioned the players at the top end of the game there, and how that's impacting them and the amount of travel and stuff they're having to do. But we've got players part-time and full-time that are feeling the effects of that as well.
Yeah, it affects everybody across the board, and if you put a Scottish dimension to it, the more international competitions you have, there's a greater pressure and a greater squeeze on the domestic game. And that things have been discussed have been things like having Champions League games on a Saturday. It's about reducing the number of league games that we have in each national competition, about getting rid of cup competitions in some countries. These are all so important to the vast majority of the supporters and vast majority of the clubs in Scotland. So from our point of view, we want to protect our national game. We want to protect the Scottish League, the Scottish Cup and the League Cup as well, to make sure that the revenue is still coming in and fans are still getting a proper product that they're playing for. And then when you drop to the sort of Championship, League 1, League 2, we recently surveyed the players, and 92% of them came back saying they would like a winter break. Now, the imposition unilaterally, which is one of the things we're fighting against, is that FIFA unilaterally brought in the Club World Cup. Unilaterally in Scotland, the League Cup was changed a few years ago to start in the middle of July. The impact means that the players are starting training in the middle of June. And the lower leagues, most of them are part-time players with jobs. So for 11 months of a year, they cannot take a break, they cannot take a holiday, perhaps even get a summer holiday with their families. So the lower league players want a winter break as well, and that's something we'll be taking up with the SPFL.
And given this ongoing workload issue and the condensed calendar here in Scotland, player welfare remains paramount for PFA Scotland. Can you describe some of the support mechanisms that are in place for members, given some of the situations which have sort of arose over the summer, whether it be challenging situations with injuries or mental health and well-being, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's always a challenging time because nowadays there's so many short-term contracts and there's hundreds of players released every single summer at the end of a season. So one of the most important times for us as a union is the period over the summertime, and it starts off with the showcase event which we put on, and about 40 players, mainly young lads. It's a kind of cushion for them. They go through training. There's a trial game at the end of it with clubs coming, and hopefully they'll get some kind of get a new club from that, and that's where also a personal development section of the union kicks in as well, because we're trying to get these players into jobs, trying to get them into writing CVs. We're hoping over the period of the last few years we've changed the mentality of players to actually plan for their future. But there's also well-being issues as well, and we have a support service in place to provide a bespoke, free of charge counselling service for our members. There's a number they can call and they get put into specialists as well. We've also invested in, we have a full-time player support officer. Diane Scott's come in, and she's only been in a few months, but she's a qualified practitioner, she's a counsellor. So she is upping the standards of all the care across the vast area of well-being that we provide for our members, and I think we do a fantastic job as a team.
And as you alluded to there, it's pertinent that we address these issues now during the summer periods, and especially to do with the workload and stuff, but before a ball is kicked in the new league campaign. What message do you have for members moving into the new season in terms of how being a PFA Scotland member can benefit them, and the sort of things that they can look out for during the season?
We're the players' union. I mean, we are a union that's owned by players. I know I'm the face of it, I'm the chief executive, I'm in charge of the day-to-day running, but it's run essentially by Michael Devlin as chair and his management committee. So everything that we do, strategy-wise, financial-wise, putting in place all the support networks, is done by the players, you know, and the players are the members. It's not my union, it's not my money, it's the players' money. It's the players that are members as well. So we have a really good membership across the board, but we're always looking to increase that membership as well. And all I would say to them is that our role, we're the only organisation that will look out for players' interests solely. That's what we're here for. We're here to look after you as an individual. We're here to look after collectively, because football is different. You have a transfer system, for example. You have a registration system where players cannot leave without the club saying you can go. Happens in no other employment situation. But also, we all know the trials and tribulations of football. It can be a dirty game, it can be a hard game as well. So we're there to pick up the pieces, whether it be legally. We've got a free legal service with a top sports lawyer and a top employment lawyer, through well-being, through personal development. We have a whole range of support structures in place to help the players, and we're here for you. That's what my message to players is. That's our role. My role here is to do what's best for every single player in Scotland.
And there's been a few updates worth addressing too, in terms of our game in general, internationally, such as a change in the concussion protocol. Can you explain some of the work in that area?
Yeah, we've been working in this area for quite some time. It's been a huge topic. You know, the link to concussion, to head injuries, to dementia. We've actually funded a research programme which is just about to conclude for players who are between 40 and 59 who are going through cognitive testing as well, to see if we can sort of add to the research that's already been ongoing. And as part of that, with FIFPro as well, we've pushed over the years for concussion substitutes, for concussion protocols to be brought into place. And initially, you know, it was a kind of temporary rule to have a concussion substitute. And that's now been made part of the laws of the game, and that's really down to PFA Scotland, PFA England and FIFPro pushing really hard to get this in place. And I think now supporters will see, and they'll accept that when a player gets a head knock, it might take 2, 3, 4 minutes for them to get assessed, but there's no kind of clamour to get the game restarted. Referees on top of it now as well. So that's been a real plus. The next step we want, and we wrote to IFAB along with the SPFL and with a whole of other unions as well, to have temporary concussion subs like they have in rugby, where you can go off and be properly assessed. That's not been accepted yet by IFAB, but we'll continue that fight. But I'm really pleased now that the work that we've done over a large number of years has now been accepted by the governing bodies.
Is that something worth highlighting for both for members and for sort of general Scottish football fans, that PFA Scotland remains a leading figure in this area in terms of looking out for player welfare, trying to introduce new protocols, and just trying to grow the game in general?
Absolutely. I mean, our interest in football is to make it a better product. We want to make it better for the supporters. If we make it better for them, then more supporters will come through the grounds. Make a better product for broadcasters. and the better product means there'll be more income that comes in, and that relates back to our members who perhaps will get better contracts. But a lot of the work we do goes on behind the scenes, and it's very confidential. I mean, the legal cases we take on are varied and they're large and small, but we will always stand up for our members who have perhaps been racially abused, who've been discrimination, who the clubs are in breach of contract, maybe treated badly by the clubs as well. But we're also looking after the players' welfare at all times. And it's not as simple as us just knocking on the door and saying, yeah, we want this changed. You've got to convince people, you've got to have evidence, you've got to have research, and you've got to have the players supporting us. When players say things, then that's far more powerful than me saying something as well. So all this work goes on a daily basis behind the scenes that's unseen, but it's nice to be able to say, yeah, the concussion protocol, a big thing is coming in place as well. It's been grasped by the clubs, been grasped by the medical people. And our advice to players is, listen, just always take the advice of the medical people. I know players always want to go back on, but if the medical person says, no, you come off, you have to accept that because it's protecting your long-term health.
Perfect, Fraser. Thank you very much.
Thank you.